Get Pucked. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Get Pucked podcast. Dave, Vito, Matt here with you after a week off. Some of you might have heard, some of you might have been a part of. There was a little bit of a power outage for a couple days for some of us, right, Dave?
Right.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we couldn't make our scheduled time last week, but we're back at it live now. Let me bang it right out of the way again, as I typically like to do these days. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. And if you like what you hear, drop a like. And as always, we've been really excited with all the comments that have been happening lately with the episodes, and we try to get back to every one of them, or as many as we can. So please continue to do that if you want to voice your opinion on anything that you hear in the episode. That out of the way, gentlemen. So unfortunate news. Let's start off right off the bat. We talked last night. It would appear that the Florida Panthers first round pick is no longer in contention for a lottery. They are going to make the playoffs. This is now assured. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So with that being said, and with that a foregone conclusion, now I have a question. And Ken Hughes has been pretty open about the fact that he's wanted to add a third first round pick, right? He said this, I think, maybe on one or two occasions. He said he would like to add an additional first round pick. But there's been a lot of speculation that he is looking to deal Florida's first round pick. So this, kind of in contrast to that. So I ask you this, what is more likely to occur in your opinion? Kent Hughes acquiring a additional first round pick, making it 3 total, or Kent Hughes unloading that Florida pick that is now dipping probably into 2021 range? What do you think is more likely? Vito?
Let me make a little correction there. It's between 17 and 18 if they get eliminated in the first round.
Okay. But now they're in and they're riding high notes. Who knows? Maybe it could be 2021 too. Maybe it could be 23, 24. I don't know.
Maybe. In my opinion, I mean, yeah, he would want to acquire another first round pick, but he has one, and now there's word out that he'd be willing to trade it as long as he makes a Kirby Dach type of trade. Now, again, this is just coming from Pierre LeBrun and the insiders, and who really knows what's going on there. But if it were me, or if I was Kent Hughes, I would probably consider trading that first round pick if it means you can get a player that's still young, that's a little further along in their development, or as we mentioned, maybe acquiring a Pierre-Luc Dubois, even though some of our followers and subscribers were not too keen on that idea. But if it's something in that realm of possibilities, then I would probably trade that first round pick. I would be a little more reluctant to trade it if it was, top 10, top 12, top 13. But now that we're getting into possibly 17, 18, or like you said, could be 19, 20, 21, depending how far they go in the playoffs, I would be okay with trading it.
For clarity, the question was not the question was not whether you would trade that pick or not. It's what's more likely. Kent Hughes dealing that pick, or Kent Hughes acquiring another first-round pick? What's more likely to happen?
Trade that first-round pick.
That's more likely than him getting another.
That's at this stage. That's more likely. He's going to trade that first-round pick, most likely.
Not to discredit anything you said, because all of it made sense, and I'm in agreement. I'm just saying you completely avoided the question. But okay, cool, no problem. Davey boy.
Yeah, I think since I can't choose just to stay exactly as is, and they just use both of those. How are they going to acquire another first-round pick? What are they going to give up to acquire another first-round pick? So to me, that seems a little bit less likely, unless you count moving this pick to acquire another pick.
Oh my God, in a package happening here. Yeah.
But I think it's more likely that they'll probably trade that pick. That would be my answer. I think that it's very likely, from all accounts, that they would move him for a Pierre-Luc Dubois in a potential deal, which you guys know my opinion on that. I think that's a mistake. I think that you want to stay away from that. But it's probably more likely. If you're asking me what's more likely, I think it's more likely that they move that pick, especially considered, it's Montreal. You need to move a little bit here. I think, acquiring another first-round pick means they're far, to me, is a symbol that they're far away from ever being contenders or, even vying for the playoffs. Because if you're moving, that means you're moving a quality now piece probably to land another first-round pick. So to me, I think that's a little bit less likely.
Okay. But, and to Dave's point, he's right. Who would you trade Or who would Montreal trade that would get that first round pick?
It would
I
be
mean,
the
at the trade deadline,
I'd imagine the
trade
package.
deadline was probably the best possibility, the highest chances
Yeah.
possible for all the injuries to acquire in the
Yeah.
first round.
Yeah.
I
It
think
could be a draft. It could be a draft. It could be a draft floor trade. It could be a
Mhm.
package. It could be a prospect and a bigger piece. I mean, today's point, it does kind of go against what they're sort of saying with the window of when they're looking to be competitive again. If you unload one of your major pieces to get another first, you're probably pushing the rebuild now to 3 years. And I think the fan base is kind of not looking to have that be that lengthy of a rebuild. But hey, man, Christian Dvorak was acquired for a first. I mean, things happen. I don't know. Teams are out there. They like guys. They get really hooked on them. They want them. They overpay.
To be
Yeah.
fair, Christian Dvorak was
Fair.
acquired for first, but they had to get that first from another team before they moved it. You know, like I'm not sure that they would actually go
Okay.
like they're
First
not
is
going
first.
out to get another first. Get what I'm saying? Bergevin didn't go like he went out to get a first to then go get Dvorak, which we all know is a mistake. But they have a first now, and now you're asking the question: what would be more likely? And he's gonna trade that first, but again, it wouldn't be for Dvorak caliber player. If they're trading that Florida pick, it's gonna be for much better quality player.
I mean, he's answering questions I haven't asked yet, but I like his answers all the same, you know? Like, okay, that's fascinating. So you think, okay, hold on. My camera's on the fritz here, but as I fix it, let's just go back for a second. The first round pick that was used to acquire Dvorak was what? Where did that fall? Was it in the 20s?
Off the top of my head,
we're all at our PCs. Can we do a quick Google on this? Because I'm curious, because you said something interesting there. Because this pick, let's say, is around the same. Okay, if it's late first, then obviously I don't think it's going to be that case. Then again, you never know with how Florida might go in the playoffs. It's likely they won't go far. But that being said, you think that this pick is more valuable than the pick that was used for Dvorak? It would get a higher caliber player, in your opinion.
Well, where did Carolina finish? Sorry, which pick was that?
So it looks to be, if I'm not crazy, the 27th pick, because it says the San Jose selected it from Carolina via Montreal and Arizona.
Okay,
So
that sounds like it is. Yeah.
The
So the 27th overall pick.
Yeah.
So okay. In fairness, if given where this current pick is, yes, you would surmise that it would be for a higher caliber player. If it's pick 18, 18 is far better than 27. Agreed. But if it ends up being that they get past the first
a deeper
round,
draft,
it is a deeper. So context plays a factor here as well. But all the factors together. Now that I hear it that way, yeah, I would probably say yes. When they move this pick, because I'm also in agreement. I think it's a when, not if. The expectation is the prospect coming back has a much higher ceiling than Dvorak has, or the player they're acquiring back has to be better. Because it could be, I don't know what they're going to go and what they're going for, so I can't. He
will be better, and at the same time, the situation is very different too, right? Because Dvorak was a desperation move. Like they lost Dano, it was literally just a move to replace Dano, or if you want to say it was to replace Kotkaniemi. Either way, it wasn't the best move in the world. It had potential on the surface when you were looking at it and saying, okay, he was putting up these types of numbers with Arizona. You would think that he would produce more when it got to Montreal, and unfortunately, he actually has produced very similar numbers. He's still producing a 30-point pace, right? So he didn't get better and he didn't get worse. He got injured a little more, but that's about it. So you got to think that if you're going to trade away a first in a deeper draft, it's to get a much better player than Christian Dvorak.
I mean, we can also debate probably all night long about what they should be going after with that pick, but just to keep it a little bit more focus fire based, most people, the overall consensus is the first is in play for Dubois. Some way, shape, or form, it's all about Dubois. We talked about that ad nauseum in the last episode or two, so I don't really want to dive into the merits of that. I'm more curious in your guys' opinion. If you were in charge of the team and you had that pick and the whole situation, everything being the exact same, and you had the Dubois situation with him out saying and through his agent and everything, he wants to come to Montreal. You know, the whole shebang. Would you use that pick to go after a guy like this to solidify your top six? I know Dave's sentiment said about this, so it's a little bit loaded because I know where he's going to go. Or do you go after a goalie?
Wow, goalie. That's an interesting situation. I would definitely go after a goalie. But I don't know if, who's available as a goaltender for that first round pick. It's tough to, I'd have to look into it, and I don't know if that's how you're going to get your goaltender. It's definitely interesting. I would definitely go more goaltender. Look, the Canadiens, if what everyone's saying is true, and that it's 95% sure that Dubois ends up with the Canadiens and this and that, he wants to go there.
Yeah.
You have a year. Just wait him out, man. Just wait. The Jets are dealing from a position of weakness. You could probably. I'm not against going to get Dubois if that's your plan. If that's what the Canadiens want to do. Again, not my plan, but if it's in their plans to get Dubois eventually, okay. I'm not against striking first and going to get him before risking it at free agency or risking that they sign and trade him elsewhere. I'm not against that, but I don't think it will necessarily take a first round pick to get that done. The Jets are dealing out of a position of extreme weakness here. And I think that he's to be had for much cheaper than a first-round pick. You could make a package around them, especially they have a lot of defensive prospects that aren't going to pan out here. They're not going to work out here, but that other teams might be interested in. Go make some moves that way. And so for me, it's an absolute no on trading that pick for Dubois. Getting a goaltender, absolutely. I think goaltenders are extremely important. And we were speaking to Brian Wild over the weekend, and he told us, when in a rebuild do you go get a goaltender? Because do you go get a goaltender early on and he steals you victories, and then all of a sudden, he robs you of those, you know what I mean? So it made me rethink a little bit about goaltending. When do you go get that goaltender, right? And if you're trading a first round pick, it's probably a very highly touted goaltending prospect, or a prospect that's ready now, an already established goaltending prospect. A goaltender in the NHL. So is that when you want to make that move? You know what I mean? So I think it's important to get a goaltender regardless of when, because they're few and far between. I think you need to go get an NHL caliber everyday starting goaltender. It doesn't need to be elite, let's just Sturkin or Vasilevsky, but you need a starting goaltender in the NHL, which the Canadiens don't have yet.
Okay. Great
points. So I think I've written this a few times, but if the Habs go and pursue trading for Pierre-Luc Dubois now, it's likely because by acquiring him now versus waiting for him to become a UFA is because they can then sign him for that 8th year and keep the cap a little lower than if they were to sign him for 7 years. That 8th year would be able to probably keep that cap in and around the $8 to $8.5 million. So that's why I think that they would go that route if they do go and acquire Dubois. As for a goalie, that's an interesting question, because out of the goalies that have been linked to Montreal, whether be it a rumor, be it some of those fake or wannabe insiders, whatever the case may be, so we got Askarov as a name that was linked to the Montreal Canadiens. Nashville Predators look like they're heading in a bit of a rebuild as well, or at least a retool. And when you look at it, it's like they've already got Saros there, and they've got other goalies as well, Lankinen and whoever else. So maybe there is a connection there with Montreal can link. And I would be willing for somebody like Askarov with his upside and his potential to maybe trade that Florida first-round pick in a package to get him. But at the same time, when you're looking at Dubois, I agree with you, Dave. It might not take that first-round pick to get him because they're trading from a position of weakness. But that might be the deal that just gets it done and gets it over with. You know what I mean? He might be that player similar to like Kirby Dach, who was an RFA, where Montreal says, okay, here's the first round pick and something else and another later round pick to get it, and let's get it over with and call it a day. I mean, at the end of the day, Montreal could have gotten a first and a third for somebody like Kotkaniemi on an offer sheet. So it's like I'd pay that for Dubois at the very least. That's how I see it. But it's a very interesting question, Matt. Honestly, the goalie would really depend on that first round pick. I wouldn't just trade for. I'm not so sure I'd be too keen on another goalie that was linked was Carter Hart. That rumor came out a couple of months ago or a couple of weeks ago, if you remember. Some people suggested Thatcher Demko. I mean, am I trading a first round pick for Carter Hart? Probably not. Thatcher Demko. To Dave's point, where are we in the rebuild if we're getting a Thatcher Demko?
You're not trading the first. Let's say it's the first straight up for Carter Hart. You're not doing it? Really?
I would have to think about it. And I was somebody that said that you have to consider trading for Carter Hart for the Montreal Canadiens.
I would.
I would
as well.
I would. On that note as well, to Dave's point, and I think the Brian Wild thing that you brought up is really, really interesting because, yes, we saw what happens. I'm not saying they're going to go and get another Carey Price. There might not never be a Carey Price again on this team, so I'm not going to say that much. But that a good goaltender will steal you games. A good goaltender will hide the weaknesses on your team and put you in positions of sitting in that awkward limbo of drafting 15, 16, 17, like the Habs have done many, many times now. I kind of look at it and say to myself, well, that is a possibility. When you want your guy, when you find your guy, you get your guy. You do what it takes to get your guy. You got to go for it. It doesn't matter when. It doesn't matter what the situation is. If they're all in on X goalie and they go up to that team and say, you know, let's say it is Nashville and they're like, you guys got Soros. This Askarov is not going to play. Like, let's make something work. They make something work if that's their guy. You know, if it's the Carter Hart thing, who knows? I think it's fascinating because in addition to a lot of teams having a lot of younger goaltenders starting to make the jump and pushing into those spots, you also have a lot of veterans that are out there as well that are not too expensive and can be better than what we have. Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, sure. I think Monty's been playing very, very good hockey. Deep down in my core, I don't believe he's a starting goaltender. I think he's a phenomenally good backup. Now that I've seen him in a prolonged period of time, I think this guy would definitely be a great backup for this team. I think Jake Allen's days are numbered here for sure. I'm not sold on Primo. It's been unfortunate with the situations they put him in. It's not the easiest time to show what he's got when you have like the bottom barrel of your defensive core playing in front of him and the team is basically all injured all the time. So it hasn't been a fair shake, but of the times that I have seen him, I'm not overly impressed. I know they recently did a qualifying offer to, I forgot his name already. It's Jacob Dobes. Is it Dobes? Is that
Dobish, yeah.
Dobish. So is that something to think about? Is he in the pipeline? Can you put any eggs in that basket? I mean, there's this other kid in the NCAA that's now linked to Carolina of all things. I think he's from here. Again, another name that it's Yaniv Peretz. You know about this? Anyways, I forgot I can't pronounce anybody's name, so forgive me for anybody who takes offense to these names. But that's another guy that apparently he's unsigned. They can go grab him right now. Right now, they could have done it. So I don't know. I don't know what their mindset is, but to the question that I asked, I mean, given the two things up on plate, and I like Pierre-Luc Dubois. I would not be upset if this team acquired him. I don't think that he's a quitter like everybody suggests that he is on all these other teams. I think context and situation plays a big factor. Who the coaches are at the time, the teams that he was on, all these things matter. I think, like Vito had mentioned before, he's showing perhaps his true colors now, and he's starting to, really produce at a high clip. And this could be an amazing addition for this team. Adding the fact that he's a good as she knew, this is just an added benefit to the situation, and he's a guy who's basically picking that he wants to play here. I think that's a big takeaway as well. But put the 2 and 2 up there at the same time, I would take a goalie. I really, really would. So that's my take on that. And switching gears to this other little thing that I caught, I'm going to shamelessly take from a thread that was on Twitter. I don't quite remember who started it, so I apologize. And if anybody does know, please let me know in the comments, and I'll give them a shout out. But they broke it down as they typically do. A lot of people do this towards the end of a season. They have like categories. So like, who's your MVP? Who's your breakout player? So I'm going to ask you, who's your MVP of the season? And you will tell me. You can give me a little reason why. And then we'll go down the categories. There's about 4 or 5 of them. So I'll start with you, Dave. I think it should be. Are we talking
Habs-wise, or are we talking?
We're Habs-wise. Habs-wise. This is a Habs podcast. We're going to start Habs until they're eliminated from the playoffs, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit of playoffs on the other.
They're eliminated from the playoffs.
I mean, until the playoffs start. Yes, they've been eliminated a long time. Fair say. Who is your MVP of this season? This abysmal season. Who is it?
Wow, that's a good question. Wow. Let me think about this. I mean, like, Man, it's a tough question. It's not as easy a question as you think. Like you want to say Nick Suzuki or you know Kirby Dach and what they've done. You could say those guys. Caden Goalie has definitely come out and you know played well. I don't know, man. MVP of the season.
I thought this be the easiest of all the questions. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you got to pick one. You got to pick one.
You can.
I guess I'll go Nick. Look, I'll pick Nick Suzuki. He played all 82 games. He was stellar. I'll just go with the safe choice. Nick Suzuki was first year, like captain. Like let's give it to Nick Suzuki.
Okay.
Man, but yeah, I mean, look, it's hard to pick an MVP on a year like this. It's like I don't even want to give it to anybody. Like, yeah.
I mean, I guess you can say nobody if you want. I guess.
I won't. I mean, look, there was bright spots all year round for everybody. You could argue, you know, like Cole Caulfield probably would have won it had he stayed healthy, but he didn't. Kirby Dach showed great stuff, but you know, at the end of the day, like you know,
maybe it'll help if I tell you that there's these other categories and these other guys might fall into these other categories to like alleviate the. It's not the only question I'm going to ask, so we'll put you down, Nick Suzuki. Vito, who's your MVP of the season? Oh my god!
I got. I'm actually juggling between two guys. I mean, the safe bet and the safe pick was going to be Nick Suzuki, and that's what I was going to say because he showed progress, right? If you look at statistically, he got career highs. He played all 82 games, everything they've said. But how can you not consider Mike Matheson, who got hurt, only played 46 games and got 34 points in those 46 games, and has been basically a leader since he came back, really, and he's been kind of like doing what he has to do, showing he's got some good skating there. Basically, everybody knows that Montreal won that Petrie trade. Now there's no doubt, there's no question. Either at the younger player, the better player in the story. I guess honorable mention. You got to give it to Monty too. Give it to Monty. The guy. What was the expectations? They signed him 2 years, $1 million a year.
Give it to Monty or honorable mention? Monty?
No, an honorable mention as Monty.
Okay.
Like, for me, it's a
just because someone exceeds expectations, though. I mean, that's a low bar.
It's such a crap
especially
year.
when that bar was real low.
Exactly.
You know?
And I mean, did he have perfect games? No. Did he steal a few wins and kind of hurt Montreal's draft, if you want to, those pro tankers and all that? Yeah, he did. And at the same time, we literally got to the point and saying, okay, this guy's a non-starter. Forget it. He's going to help with the tank. So all of a sudden, people are questioning, hey, could he be the goalie that we keep for a couple of years? Could he be the number one goalie in the NHL? He actually got people questioning that. We don't think so. We think he's done nice things, but is he the guy who's going to carry us to the next step of the Montreal Canadiens rebuild? No. But he did nice things, and he definitely exceeded my expectations of him.
Your MVP.
I'm going to go Mike Matheson.
Mike Matheson. Okay. Okay. I think any answer realistically, and Mike Matheson is a good answer. It's not a bad answer, but I think any answer that's not Nick Suzuki is incorrect. Just the sheer fact that the man played 82 games.
Well, I didn't want to pick enough in one game.
Just be but it is who it is. Anyways, I want to move on to the other ones because you guys are just diving deep into these. Who was your breakout player of the year?
Oh, well, that's another tough question. My first thing I want to say is Kirby Dach, because definitely he exceeded expectations. He definitely broke out. What?
Definitely for you. If you remember when we spoke about Kirby Dach, I don't know. I don't
remember.
I'm still not 100%. So don't get me wrong on this, man. Again, be wary of good performances in tough seasons. Okay, I'm telling you. I'm going to wait it out on Kirby Dach. But for this season, he did exceed my expectations 100%. And he did, for sure. When he came here, there was all sorts of question marks, and he answered a lot of them. So kudos to him for that. Caden Goalie, also another breakout performer in the sense that obviously it's his first year. So he definitely broke out and played and proved that he could be a huge part in this defense going forward. But I think the right answer here would be Kirby Dach.
Okay. Vito. I mean, dramatic head movements, the pause.
Really?
Come on. Who's the breakout guy?
I honestly,
Yes, honestly. Tell us.
Arbor Jack guy.
Nice. It, like literally floated in my head a little bit.
Arbor Jack guy came out of nowhere. We thought, okay, he's gonna be a guy that's gonna call up from Laval. Instantly became a fan favorite, fighting some of the toughest players that are in the NHL today, not of all time, obviously.
Yeah.
And barring the injury, we were still gonna be cheering for the guy. He has that swag. He comes in. He's a team guy. People are loving him. I mean, to me he's that guy. He broke out, and I didn't expect him to be the way that he was. And Dave, kudos to you because you called him a stud at the beginning of the season, and I said he was going to be good. I mean, I didn't expect this though from him. He came out swinging, literally swinging.
Yeah.
So we saw what you did there. Yeah. Well done.
I love the dramatic pause.
Well done. Yep. No, we caught it. Yep.
Honorable mention. I'll give it to Raphael Harvey-Pinard.
All right.
I mean, it's small sample size, but look what
Yeah.
he did in that small sample size. He seized his opportunity, and now we're saying he should be in the NHL next year. That's what we're saying.
There are some people that think that he actually has to fight for that spot, but I'm in agreement with you. I think he's in there. I agree. At the same time, my 2 cents, I think it is Kirby Dach. I think it's just you have to. But Caden Goalie is so high on my list, man. He is so high. That guy, we knew he was going to be good, but I mean, even more than good. Like, really exceeded my expectations, and to me, that's like a super strong contender for breakout player. But what Kirby Dach did, coming from Chicago and everything, like, and not really putting up the big numbers there, and the playing style. It's not just his numbers; it just looks like a whole different player here. Anyways, Kirby Dach for me, definitely breakout player.
And you know what? That's a very good pick. The only reason why I'm not picking Kirby Dach is because I believed in him from the moment we acquired him. I kept saying he's got the potential. He's a third overall pick. People were saying, yeah, he was drafted too high, and you saw it when he was in Chicago what he could be. But he got the injury bug. He was in a really bad situation in Chicago, so was everybody else at that point. There was all kinds of controversy going on at that point. So I mean, for me, I was pretty high on Kirby Dach when we got him. I was one of those that when the trade was announced, I was like, oh damn, this is
Hell yeah,
really big.
All right, yeah, I think you guys will like this one. Who's the most disappointing player of the year?
Oh, that's another tough question because there's so many. For me personally, it's got to be Jonathan Drouin. I really, 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 really thought. I mean, I guess like fool me once, whatever that expression is. Can't fool me twice. But yeah. I mean, look, I really thought he would move things around under Marty St. Louis. I think that he'd be able to turn it around even just a little bit, and to not score a goal for so long. And I get it; he was racking up the assists, honorable effort, I guess. Yep. But the point of Jonathan Drouin this year was be good enough to get dealt at the deadline, realistically, so you could get your fresh start somewhere else. And he didn't do it. He couldn't do it. He still was the same old Jonathan Drouin, and to me, that is the most disappointing. I mean, like, you could talk about Hoffman. I don't want to steal any of Vito's answers, but like, to me, like, it's just I really, really, really wanted Jonathan Drouin to succeed, and I think a lot of the fan base did. I think they saw, Marty St. Louis here, a little bit more offensive flair. The reins are going to be off of him. He just had his break for his mental health break. He's going to come back strong, and he just didn't. And it was just very, very disappointing.
Jonathan Drouin is the obvious choice, and I agree with that too. To me, is the obvious disappointment.
Disagree, but okay.
Wow.
But I would give it to a guy who's actually not with Montreal anymore, and it's Dadonov.
No, my pick. Okay.
Dadonov to me was by far that
you
guy.
High hopes for Dadonov?
It's no. Where my hopes were, which were very tempered, he was so off mark. Go ahead, Vito. I want to take it from you.
I expected him to at least be not a
20 goals,
but at least 20 goals. And when he left Montreal, how many did he have? He wasn't even at 6, 7, maybe max, maybe even lower than that. So it's like, here. Actually, I'm curious because I don't remember when he got traded from Montreal what he was at, but I'm feeling it's a really low number.
All right, you look that up. I want to keep pressing on here just to make sure that we get under the buzzer. But it's Dadonov for me 100%. Although Drouin also, I mean, there's so many. Armia, Hoffman. I mean, you could.
Well,
just go on, man.
Armia's, as always, he's hurt, right? But when it comes to the Donov,
doesn't
I was
matter.
right. It was less than 6 goals when he got cheap. Like
Yeah.
50 games in Montreal and got 4 goals.
Yeah, this guy really didn't want to be here, but I really thought he'd be professional and actually just do what he was always kind of doing. But yeah, awful. Daddy-O gone. Super thrilled that happened. Who's the player to watch out for next season?
I like that. I like that question.
Yeah.
For next season.
Next season. And of course, there can be a bunch and what have you, but who's your guy?
Justin Barron.
Okay, cool.
Justin Barron. I think he's going to take a step in his game. They're going to play him a few more minutes. And given Montreal's depth on the right side defense, I think he's going to get quite a bit of minutes, actually. So I'm going to say Justin Barron is going to be the player that's going to surprise, barring injury, of course. He's going to surprise a lot of people. He already showed flashes this year, and you saw some moments, made some nice breakthrough passes, did some very nice things. His puck movement was great. His decision-making was much better once he got called back up from Laval. And I think that's what's going to motivate him.
Good pick.
Interesting, yeah. Man, I'm not sure. I guess Jesse Ulonen would be my guy to watch next year.
Okay. All right. Might not even start on the team, but okay.
I know, but I think there is a spot for him on the team. I don't know. I feel now looking at him, and I saw his game in Laval on Monday, and he's a much better NHLer than you could predict while watching his AHL games, just because I don't know for what reason, but his game translates way better in the NHL, and he's a guy I think that could surprise next year, because I think that he's kind of still flying under the radar. I think that the typical Habs fan, they see him, okay, what is he bringing? But I think that he has the potential to be more than what people have written out for him. So I think that's a guy to look out for me.
He's got a heck of a shot. He just needs to use it more.
Okay. Those are good picks. Those are good picks. I think for myself, while probably a lot of people are going to be like, okay, that's obvious, but I can't see how it's not Yodai. Give me Slavkovsky. Give me back 110%. Guy with the best sound bits on the team. I mean, I'm psyched. I mean, from what we saw this year, a lot of people suggesting, oh, even next year he should start in the AHL. I disagree. I think off-season training, I think a lot of working on skating, I think now having played a bunch of games and understanding what it takes to be in the NHL versus where he was playing before, and working with the team, he's going to work on the points that he needs to work on to become a far more complete NHL player. He's going to be a year older. He's going to be more fit, likely. Again, this whole notion of like at 18, you're still growing into your man body. I know he's a monster already, but you gotta grow into it. It's a known fact. So I think we're going to see, and pardon the pun, significant big strides from this big man moving next season. And I'm really, really psyched to see what he's going to be able to achieve, not being hurt, God willing, a full season and not a complete disaster of a season like we had this year.
You know who I wouldn't discount? Jordan Harris. Assuming he's still with the team and all that, I wouldn't discount Jordan Harris. His puck moving the way he is, he's very smart. He got 17 points in 65 games. It's not, oh my God, a crazy amount, but there's a lot more potential. There's a lot more upside to him than just that. So I wouldn't discount Jordan Harris as being a. I know I have this thing with defensemen because I mentioned Justin Barron and now Jordan Harris, but I wouldn't discount him either.
Okay. Excellent answers, gentlemen. This one is a little bit short of an episode, everybody. Unfortunately, real life obligations is keeping us from going on and on and on. But please, if you can, let us know who your MVP, breakout player, most disappointing player, and player to watch out for in the following season is in the comment section. We'd love to see what you guys have, see if anything is the same as us, see if anything is completely different than us. Always super fun to read the comments and see what you guys think. And one more time, if you haven't already, subscribe, like, all that kind of stuff. Really appreciate it. We noticed a really big uptick, and we really appreciate everybody taking the time to subscribe, leave comments, like, all that stuff. So very much appreciate it. And on that note, gentlemen, hopefully we don't have power outages and we can do this again next week. But for Vito and Dave, I'm Matt, and this was Get Pucked.